The idea that the Father and Son are co-eternal and that the Son is fully God is not in the Christian Bible at all.
Hey there, my name's Brandon Hendricks, and welcome to No Limit Ministry, where we are zealously committed to the truth of the gospel message. Today, I'm going to be responding to a video by a rabbi named Tovia Singer from Outreach Judaism entitled, Who Invented the Trinity and Why Did the Church Embrace It? But first, context, because I want to be fair in all this, and that's always my mission when we're seeking the truth, is to be fair in our approach of the truth. And so just a little context about the rabbi for those who are not familiar with him. He's a Jewish apologist committed to what is called counter-missionary work against the Christian faith. So basically, he operates as what you would call an anti-evangelist, being against any type of evangelism efforts towards the Jewish community. And at the end, I'm going to show you where you can go to see how rebuttals like this can be done in live interactions. So without further ado, let's dive in. Before I get started, I just wanted to start by doing something that most rebuttal videos don't like to do, which is concede some points. So firstly, the rabbi is right that your standard Christian has a very poor understanding of who Jesus is and Trinitarian doctrine. Historically, those with questions have sadly been hushed or silenced, bringing forward legitimate questions in their search for the understanding of the truth, which is totally legit. And we see this a lot, especially in the medieval periods, with a lot of the atrocities that he even references himself. And those, I'm going to say Christians in quotations here, what they did was wrong. And they're going to have to answer to God for that one day. But I do want to be clear. This doesn't mean that the heretics are right either. In fact, a proper understanding of Christian doctrine shows exactly why they're wrong, and dangerously so, because it can lead people astray, which ultimately impacts one's eternal destiny. So this is no small matter. And this is exactly why what the rabbi says here is concerning.
The idea that the Father and Son are co-eternal and that the Son is fully God is not in the Christian Bible at all.
Whoa. Wait, did you just hear that? The rabbi just said, I'm going to quote him here to be fair. The idea that the Father and the Son are co-eternal and the Son is fully God is not in the Christian Bible at all. Well, if the rabbi would kindly open up to the first page of the book of John, and I'm going to try to say this as respectfully I can, in the very first sentence, when speaking about Jesus as the Word, John states that, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. I don't know if this can be any more clear, and I know that the rabbi is a very educated man, so I'm not trying to insult his intelligence at all. It kind of comes across to me that he was blatantly ignoring this, and maybe he wasn't. Maybe he just forgot about this or missed this, which could have happened, to be sure, but the problem is that John 1 is only one small example of this oversight. This is just one of many examples that take place. Take a look at these verses I'm going to throw up here on the screen. You can pause the video to check them out and examine them for yourself in full and come to your own conclusions. And I truly do believe you'll see how ridiculous this argument is exegetically. I just don't know how you come to any other conclusion. But this is only the beginning, because in the main point he tries to make here in just a second, what I'm about to show here, he ultimately ends up digging an even bigger hole for himself. Funny enough, he does this without even realizing it. Well, before it's too late. See if you can catch what I'm talking about here.
God could give honor to the Son, as you find in the Carmen Christi of Philippians 2:11, 2:6-11, which is a very high Christology. But God, because Jesus did not grab what did not belong to him, so God then gives him all the honors that you find in Isaiah 45, but God has to give it to him because he didn't boast. And the context is that Paul is telling fellow Christians not to be boastful, but humble yourself and be like Christ, who did not seize which didn't belong to him.
Did you catch that? He literally almost finishes citing the very part of Philippians 2 he was quoting that proves he's wrong. He states, starting at 8:38 in the original video, which again I have linked in the description below so you can check it out for yourselves. I didn't edit this or something like that. He starts stating, and I quote, "The context is that Paul is telling fellow Christians not to be boastful, but to humble yourself and be like Christ, who did not seize which didn't belong to him." He stopped himself short because in the process of beginning to paraphrase Philippians 2:6, he was about to expose the very absurdity of his position. So let's put the evidence on the screen here and you can examine it for yourself. I'm going to put it back a little bit in verse 5 just so you have the full context here, right? Paul starts stating in verse 5, in your relationships with one another, have the same mindset as Christ Jesus, who being in the very nature of God, did not consider equality with God something to be used to his own advantage, or as the literal standard version states, being in the form of God, thought it not something to be seized. You see the problem with the rabbi's entire position here? He's saying that just because Christ didn't choose to seize the exaltation warranted to his divine status doesn't in any way diminish his divine nature. As Philippians 2:5-6 explicitly states here, and you can, again, read it for yourself. You see what's going on here? He's stating that Christ isn't divine and then mistakenly starts to cite a section that explicitly states his divinity. That's why he stopped the paraphrased quotation he was doing here and does a hard 180. So truthfully, we could stop this entire video right here and that would be sufficient to expose the inaccuracies going on here. But I just think it's far too important that we continue to address how he uses this initial misrepresentation to go into further misrepresentations. In fact, he continues cherry-picking verses out of context to promote blatant heresy that was specifically condemned at one of the early church councils of Nicaea. So check this part out.
Jesus did not possess the mind of God, and therefore, in the same book, Mark, chapter 13, verse 32, Jesus doesn't know things that only the Father knows. And remember, in Christian theology, Jesus is fully God and fully man. His humanity does not diminish from his divinity.
There's a lot to unpack here, but if the rabbi had not started by misrepresenting what Philippians 2:5-6 explicitly states, he would understand what is going on here in all these examples he keeps trying to pull up here. In the incarnation, Jesus voluntarily refrained from exercising the fullness of his divine attributes. Like, that's the whole point of why he became man. This includes omniscience, aka being all-knowing, because as Philippians 2 states, he did not consider equality with God, this is Jesus Christ is talking about, something to be used or something to be seized. Rather, he emptied himself by taking on the very nature of a servant, being made in human likeness, meaning he purposefully adopted human limitations. This is why they were even able to kill him on the cross. So do you catch that? This clearly is explaining that Jesus' ignorance was a chosen one. And I'm going to give you a short analogy kind of as an example to make this as simple as I can. Imagine a mother whose son is on vacation with his father. The son has an iPhone, and she could choose to look up the whereabouts of her son using the Find My iPhone app, but she chooses to trust that the father's timeline and plan is going to work out. So her choosing to be humble and not to look up where the son is doesn't mean that she doesn't have the ability to. Rather, she is choosing to trust the Father's plan and care of the situation. So likewise, if Jesus doesn't limit himself by becoming man and taking on human limitations, it undermines the whole point of the incarnation, just like it would undermine the mother's trust in the Father taking him on a vacation for the weekend. Jesus, as God, had to become a human being to begin with. He had to adopt our limitations, overcome the sin that was limiting us, so that we could likewise triumph in glory with him. These types of misguided Christological attacks just continue throughout the rest of the video, including promoting a condemned heresy that the rabbi does called Adoptionism. And this heresy is explicitly called out at the First Ecumenical Council, which I'm going to link some information about that more below in the description. But it would take hours for me to unpack all the misrepresentations going on here. So if you want to check out what a conversation about these kind of issues looks like, you can check out a video here. And as always, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more content uncovering the truth of the gospel message. To God be the glory.